Walk hard, hard down life's rocky road. Walk bold, hard. That's my creed.
Hello, friends. Welcome to another episode of IPN's Movie Night, the podcast where we share our love for movies, good or bad. I am your co-host, Alexander Pacillas. I'm also the creative director of In Pursuit of Nothing.
And I'm Carter Thomas. I am the other co-host, head writer for IPN, I think. We're still
You are.
we're still in the midst of our COVID-19 extravaganza quarantine, as I'll call it. So we're doing this remotely. It's a lot of fun.
We're doing it remotely, but because we're doing it remotely, we have somebody very special with us today.
Yes, we do. All the way from the East Coast. We have
From the East.
we have the CEO and ambassador of Nacho Comedy, the great the child educator, Tony Nacho. Hello, Tony.
Hey, guys. Yeah, well, as no one calls me the Beast from the East, so if it makes you guys more comfortable, you can call me that.
The Beast from the East. We won't call you that, but
Mr.
I really
Beast.
appreciate
Please
you
don't.
giving us that info.
Please don't.
Okay.
But,
Awesome.
Yeah.
We're very excited that we're having this encounter now, because I know we've kind of like been in touch like just through like Instagram and YouTube for like a while now, and it's just been like a mutual type of like respect for you guys that we have for you guys, and just like, you know, just wanting to rep our fellow sketch
Creators.
great creators. Yeah, just like we're all trying to do the same thing, and I just think we, like, you know, trying to have each other's backs for it. So
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you guys kill it. You guys put out so much. Like, it's unbelievable to me how much work you guys put into like all your videos. I respect it so much. Like, I wish I was anywhere close to like that good at trying to do this sketch comedy thing. Like, you guys are just the real deal.
to be honest,
Oh
I
yeah,
mean,
thank
like,
thank you. And it's
thank you,
you know,
yeah.
it's hard to do things like on your own, and it's even harder to find like 12 people who are
Yeah.
just as motivated as you. It's just it's luck. That's all it is.
I mean, to be honest, like, yeah, it's luck, and it's doing it for almost 5 years, and you know, not getting a cent out of it. You know, it's like, oh yeah, you can do it. You just have to lose money to do it. You know, it's like, it's kind of
And
Yeah,
we
absolutely.
still
And
are.
a situation.
and you guys must love it. Like, you have to love it if that's the case, you know?
Yeah, it's just
But
like us
today-
hanging out most part.
Yeah. But we're here to talk about something that you love today, Tony. You brought in a cult classic today. Do you want to tell us what movie you brought?
Today I brought, I would say probably my favorite comedy of all time, Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox Story.
Hell yeah.
Yeah,
A great.
John C. Reilly.
When Carter told me, like, oh, Tony chose Walk Hard, I shouted so loud. Any excuse for me to watch the movie again is amazing. Like, I'll just watch it with no one telling me to do it, but I just have a great time every single time. So
Yeah, it's one of those movies where no matter how many times I watch it, I'm laughing every single time. It doesn't matter. Like, at this point, I'm expecting every single line, but you know, I'll always find something a smaller detail that I somehow never noticed another time, and I'm just laughing at that now. Like, every single part of the movie is just so well constructed. It's insane.
mm-hmm.
No,
did you,
absolutely.
sorry, I interrupted you, Carter.
No, it's hard. It's hard to gauge when someone's gonna talk when you don't see them. But no, because we all have like a history with this movie. So Tony, why don't you start with like how you came upon this film?
That's actually funny, like, that you phrase it that way. So this movie came out 2007. So I was 17. I was in high school, and me and my best friends were just walking. Like there was actually a movie theater very close to my high school, Lehman High School. This was Whitestone Cinemas, and it's closed now. But like they would have like a huge sign. Like not many movie theaters like in the Bronx kind of had this kind of sign. Like it would have all like the list of movies that they had, going on in the theater at that moment, and the entire list just seemed dumb. Like, but there was a movie that said "Walk Hard," the Dewey Cox story. Like we had all seen the trailer, but we were just like, it's saying Cox. Like, how funny can this movie be? Like, is it just
Yeah,
trying too
exactly.
hard?
The Cox is
Well,
what
we were
brings
just
you in, you know?
yeah. It's at the same time exactly. I was like, well, but that's a good name at the same time. So we picked
Yeah.
that movie, and the second it started, we were just like, yes, this was the best choice ever. Like it wasn't
Yeah.
anything we were expecting to watch.
Like I've never heard of a title that just outright sounds like a parody. Like it's like I know even if I've never seen or heard of Walk the Line, I will see Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story. I'm like, that's not real. Like that's a fake.
That's
That's
not
a fake
real.
title.
Exactly.
That's not real. So
And
yeah, so you saw this in theaters then, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, oh yeah, that's right. You're saying you saw this in theaters. I don't think I had the opportunity to see this in theaters. 2007. How old? I was 16. So yeah, I was 16, and I think it was one of those things where I knew about it. I never went to go see it, but I wasn't until like I saw the movie with like a group of friends, and that was like the best. That's like the best way to watch it is to watch a group of
Absolutely.
friends with
yeah,
you,
100%.
a group of friends that you share the same type of comedy style, because this movie isn't. It's a very specific type of comedy. It's like very like slapsticky and stuff like that, and like that depending on the type of person you are, like that can go over your head, or you might think it's like stupid or whatever. I it Everything about this movie like tickles me. so like watching it with like the right group of people is like sometimes key to
Mhm.
enjoying it. But I don't know.
No, I
But
completely agree with that.
yeah, Carter,
Let's
what
see.
about you?
Well, I saw it. So 2007, I was 11 years old. So I did not.
Wow.
I did not see this film in theaters. I think I had heard, like, I kind of knew about it, but then like when I was in freshman year of high school, so I was like 14, I like just bought it off of iTunes because I was just in a phase where that's where I would just watch movies on like my iPod Touch, and and then
Jeez.
I would
Oh,
like
God.
show it to my friends. So yeah, I was like I like watched it and like loved it, and then like throughout high school I just watched it over and over and over. But up until I watched it again, it had been like maybe like five or 6 years before when I saw it like all the way through. Because I know Alex, you watched it at school like 2 years ago, but I only caught like the first 15 minutes before I had to leave. But
Wait.
I had it I have it on DVD, so I was also very glad you chose this because I didn't have to rely on my Wi-Fi for Netflix. I could just pop it in. So
Wait,
I
I
appreciate
watched
that.
it. I watched it at school.
Yeah, it was after Scott Underwood's class, and you just projected it on
Oh.
the big screen in one of our empty. Because Tony, we went to an art institute school, which are now defunct because the heads were stealing money from students, and so by
Oh
this time,
jeez.
like the
Oh, yeah.
school was like pretty much deserted, and so we would just like hang out in empty classrooms and watch movies.
Yeah, like we had like
Wow.
access to the projectors. I would just play like we would just play like stupid YouTube videos and just yeah, and like I I've done other movies, but that was definitely one that I would play just because I wanted to watch it, and if anyone else came in and watched it, cool. Like I don't know, it was like create a mini theater where I was just
Yeah.
playing Walk Hard. So
Like, so to go back to what you were saying before, like I've always watched it with, the people around me, my friends that I, known for years. Like, have you ever watched it with anyone that just didn't find it funny?
I don't. I haven't. Um because I always showed it to like my friends, and since I haven't watched it in like years, I also don't know because like lately, like when I revisit movies that I like, especially comedies that I really liked when I was like in high school, I don't really feel the same way about it. So I was just
Mm,
kind of hesitant to watch Walk Hard because
Yeah,
that happened with
I
Hot
get
Rod
that.
very recently, and so I
with
was
Hot
just
Rod.
like,
Yeah,
Ooh.
I've heard that.
I
Yeah.
know Hot Rod didn't hit the same when I watched it last year, but I always have those memories of those first 150 times where I watched it and loved it. It was just that 151st time where I was just like, oh, all right. But so I was really afraid for that for Walk Hard, but man, that shit is even better now. Like now that I like know more about film and stuff. But but real quick, why don't you just kind of give us like a for those who haven't seen the movie, can you just kind of give like a synopsis of it?
Yeah, so basically, Walk Hard is just a giant parody of any music biopic you've ever seen. Most like specifically, Walk the Line or Ray, and it follows Dewey Cox, who's played by John C. Riley, and you literally get his entire life since when he's a little kid to, spoilers, the moment he dies. It's just his entire life, and
Sorry, I'm just like you say it, and the flash in my head, they're funny. It's just every time, like if for people who haven't seen the movie, it's just like it's hard to describe like why it's funny, but it just makes me laugh every time. Sorry.
No,
I
but
just
I
felt
mean
like
that's exactly it. Like I'm not anything I'm describing doesn't necessarily sound funny, but the way they do it is entirely like genius. Like
Mhm.
Yeah.
they just find every single way to twist any expectation you have. It's just incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so it like starts out at like this big time performance like in modern day, and this stagehand played by Nat Faxon, shout out Nat Faxon, is looking for Dewey Cox, and
Oh
he's like in a
yeah.
hallway. He's an old man, and then he needs, this is what I find hilarious. He's like he they're like, Dewey, you need to go on in 2 minutes, and like his drummer's like, you need to give him a minute. Dewey Cox needs to think about his entire life before he goes on stage, and then we see his whole life. I just think it's funny this hour and a half movie was 2 minutes in in that time.
No,
And so
and it's what's really good. I mean, what I love about this movie, because already to start, it doesn't feel, or at least like the look of it, the cinematography doesn't look like a comedy.
exactly.
Like it
Yep.
looks really professional, which is like obviously it's the point. It's supposed to be like parodying those type of biopic movies that look like really gorgeous and really like dramatic and stuff. And so like when you're watching it, you're kind of like, is this funny? Like I'm not entirely sure. Like, what's his name? Uh oh god, the guy who played the drummer. Why can't I think of the
Tim
actor's name?
Meadows. Tim Meadows.
Tim Meadows. Yeah, yeah. I was like, is it Tim? I think then like Tim Meadows comes in and I'm just like, this is funny, right? Like I'm still trying to figure it out. And then it's already like showing its value of what it's presenting to you, which is like something that like a parody that's like on no other
It's on
level.
point. It's
Yeah.
Yeah.
like it's a real it's a real spoof. And this movie was produced and co-written by Judd Apatow and then directed by
Mhm.
Jake Kasdan, who also co-wrote it, who also has most recently directed the two new Jumanji movies. But I haven't. The only other work of his I've seen are the Freaks and Geeks episodes that he directed, and I love that show. So I'm sure
Oh
that
Great
was
yeah, I
show.
good.
love Freaks and
Great
Geeks.
show.
But this
I didn't
movie
know that.
was
Cool.
just like I think every aspect of it, like technically the way it was shot felt real, and the color correction is
Yeah.
so good because it like they wanted to get every aspect of like of like the true story movies, and so they like paid attention to like the location they were in, and like
And like yeah,
tones
like the
and
color of
hues
the
that are
yeah. Yeah, I
important. And
noticed that too. Like when they went back to, was it Alabama, right?
I think
I
so.
don't, yeah, it was Alabama. It's like it was like warm and hazy and stuff like that. It had this
Mm.
like like intentional type of feel with the time, and I was just like, this is really doing the trick right now. So yeah,
Yeah,
I noticed that too.
Yeah, there's some shots in
yeah,
the movie like I've seen Walk the Line like only in the past few years. So like I hadn't seen Walk the Line like anytime before this, and like I said, I saw it a few years ago, and like there are scenes in Walk the Line that Walk Hard, like the cinematography is exactly the same. Like I'm picturing like
Yeah.
there's a shot of him when he's on stage towards the beginning of the movie, Dewey Cox, and like it's just like you're getting a shot from behind and the light is like shining directly on him, and like the same
Yeah.
shot of Johnny Cash, like Joaquin Phoenix. It's like the exact same shot. Like it's crazy. If you could like show them side by side, like it's incredible.
You would think it's like the same movie or made by the same people or
Yeah,
something.
exactly, exactly.
Yeah,
There's
they really, like,
almost
did
no
their
difference.
homework. Yeah, and it's like already off the start though, it's just like things like there's jokes in this movie. Every line, every frame, everything has a joke, and it's almost kind of one of those like this is like exhausting if you're like really paying attention to the
Yep.
jokes. It's like in the beginning. Well, if we're going through the story in the beginning, like young Dewey and his brother Nate, who Nate is better at everything
He's the
than
perfect
Dewey.
child.
Yep.
He's the perfect child who keeps talking about how it's so great that he's so young. He's gonna have a long life.
Ain't nothing horrible gonna happen.
Nothing horrible is gonna happen the day they go and start playing dangerously, and then they decide to have a machete fight, and so they start fighting with machetes. Accident happens, and Dewey accidentally cuts Nate in half.
In half.
And what's great about it is like this is like a little detail that like looking at it, it works, but even though it looks kind of cheap, like when you see Nate cut in half, because for anyone who hasn't seen it, it's literally like like a prosthetic bottom half standing up with the actor just in the ground with his bottom half on the ground. It looks so bad, but it works perfectly because like because of like it's like because of like obviously you would do that in anything else and it'll be like that looks like shit, but because you're seeing it in this context, it works. It doesn't matter that it's like looks like garbage. It's somebody that knows that like the line of like where the humor is and like what would be considered funny in that situation. But just
and it's kind of
fact. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. I was gonna say it's kind of fucked up because it's based on the fact that Johnny Cash's brother like basically got sawed in half by a table saw. It was a work accident.
Oh yeah.
And Johnny Cash's dad just held that against him his entire life. Like when you watch Walk the Line, it's like he never says the line in the movie, which is the wrong kid died, but everything he says is basically that.
He's thinking it the whole time.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's some lines in there that are like that and this is why this movie is like it really depends on who you see it with, because some things can go right over their head. It's one of my favorite lines, and it's when Nate's cut in half. He says, "If I don't make it, you got to be doubly great for the both of us." And he goes, "Wow, that's a lot of pressure, Nate." Like every time I hear that line, it is so funny, and I feel like people don't hear it. I feel like people don't like really process that line.
I didn't process it until later. Real quick, does someone have a phone on their desk or something? Because I keep hearing the vibrations.
Oh, I don't
know. That was me. I just threw it away. Sorry about that.
Okay, good.
No
more phones. We won't need them. We'll talk with smoke signals once the apocalypse.
Oh yeah.
Fair enough.
One of my favorite lines is when the doctor's like, "Oh, your son's dead," and Dewey's dad is so mad. He's just like, "You're not even half the boy Nate was. You're not even half of the top half of Nate was after you cut him in half." He's like, "So you're saying I'm less than a quarter of the boy Nathan was?"
Yes.
I put that. That's when I made the note of like this movie has jokes in every line, and because that's a joke that you wouldn't think to be in like to be as good as it is, honestly. But it works. Like it's really really funny.
Yeah, and then it cuts to Dewey is now. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say, and then it cuts to Dewey, who's 14, and now he's starting to be played by John C. Reilly. And then every couple years they have to say his age, like, "Mama, I'm 14 now." Like you can't.
That's always like that's always
so
good to
funny.
me is like
It's so
anytime like you get like an older person to play like a teenager, and obviously they're commenting on like when adults play like high schoolers and shit like that. But it just works so perfect, and it just adds like doing making that option opens up so many more doors for humor that it's again it's something that's thought about by the director and the writers, that it's like, oh, here's how we can make all these jokes by like planting these little seeds and stuff like that. It's great.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's like I feel like a big part of the movie too, like how Carter said, like, when they have to like be very overt, like, oh, I'm 14 years old. Like that's something they do throughout the entire movie. Like when they're in the 60s, they're like, oh, the 60s are an exciting time,
Yeah.
or they just like they have to point out whenever something changes because it's changing like every like 10 minutes basically.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Like,
sorry, what?
yeah, I was gonna say it reminds me of, I don't know if you guys have seen Black Dynamite,
I've only
but
seen it once.
but
Yes, yes.
it's like Black Dynamite is talking about a flashback that he's having with his brother. He's just like, I am 18-year-old Black Dynamite, and you are my 16-year-old kid brother, and you are high as a kite yet again. That's just what that reminded me of.
Yeah, those are just like, again, it's like one of those few jokes that fit in nicely into this style of comedy that I feel like
Mhm.
flies over people's heads. Um, God, there's so much to this movie. It's so hard to like pick and choose what to talk about.
I
Um,
think let's
Something
if
oh,
go ahead.
I was sorry about that. No, so what I was gonna say was that like I like the fact that he immediately loses his sense of smell. So like they have to play on the fact that it's also like a parody of Ray. So instead of going
oh
blind, he
right,
goes smell blind.
yeah, that he's like
Hmm.
a struggle. He has some form of struggle then that his mom
Yeah.
says like, you're going smell blind. It's like, why don't you go down the store and get some butter and a candle? We're gonna light us a candle tonight. I don't know why the fuck, like, that is so funny the way she says that, but I don't know. And then of course after that, or moving forward to when he's 14 years old and he's playing at
Ta-
the
Talent
school.
show for his school.
Yeah, it's again one of those like, oh God, there's so many things about the parody of like playing like a really soft rock and roll song and then having people go ape shit over it
Right,
and just
like the name of
beating
the
the
song
shit
is
out of
like
each other.
"Hold My
Hold my
Hand,"
hand.
Yeah.
like
What's he talking
the
about?
most innocuous thing you could think of.
What are you talking
And
about? It's a song
everyone's
about
just
holding
going
hands.
crazy. Women are like ripping their shirts, and people are dancing, and priests are like, "Get this devil music out of here!" And it's
Yep.
and then there's an angry mob outside of their house, and
Yep.
that's when Dewey's dad is like, "Okay, like I've had it with you. Like I'm not raising any devil spawn," and kicks him
What was
out.
this like?
And so
How
Dewey
does
and Kristen Wiig, his 12. Oh, sorry, what?
No, I was gonna say, how does the line go? It's just like, he's like, you don't think we know what you mean when you say hold, take my hands. Like, what are you talking about? The song about holding hands. You watch your mouth.
No, he's like, "No, you know who
Yeah,
has hands? The
Oh yeah, you know his
devil,
hands. The
and he
devil.
uses them for
he
holding."
uses them for hold.
Oh, and then yeah, Dewey's 12-year-old girlfriend.
Yeah, played by
Kristen Wiig.
Kristen Wiig. They run off to have their life together, and then immediately, like, it's is it a few years later or a few months later? Either way, but they have like 3 kids.
Yeah,
Yep.
no, it's a few months because he was even saying like, oh, you got to give up your dream or something. He's like, I think I'm doing pretty well for her 15-year-old and a baby or something like that.
Yeah,
And
and
it's like,
she's
yeah,
like, "What about
they have an apartment and stuff.
what about my dreams, Dewey? Edith, I told you I can't build you a candy house. It'll break. It'll fall apart."
Fall over and melt, and the sun will melt the candy. It won't if he never rains.
Uh,
like,
and yeah,
like,
Kristen Wiig is based. Oh, sorry,
no,
interrupting
I'm
each
just saying
other.
there's so many things about that.
And Kristen
Kristen
Wiig's
Wiig.
character is like the stereotypical like give up your dream, yada yada yada. But then, because Dewey works at a nightclub where he's a janitor, and it's a erotic dancing nightclub, and Craig Robinson has his band and he's the lead singer. But then Craig Robinson gets laryngitis, and so Dewey takes over as the singer, and it just so happens that that night the record executives come in. One of them I didn't know, played by Harold Ramis, rest in peace.
Yeah,
Did not know that. I couldn't see him
yeah.
past the beard.
He's Mr. L'Chaim.
Mr.
Wait, was he Mr. L'Chaim? Mr. L'Chaim and then Mr. Mazel Tov. God, that's the other thing about this movie, that there's moments in it where I'm like this, because I remember certain like racial type of like jokes that they have in it, that I'm like, I'm worried if it's like gonna come off as like what's the word, I don't know, just like
Like, not
unpleasant
good.
now. Yeah, yeah. And so, but like every time I see it, it's just like, okay, they're treading that line. They're treading like that satire line where it's just like they're aware of the joke, like because they're commentating on like the stereotypes or something like that. And it's like it's always gets like just to like the edge of the line, and then it's like, no, 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 we're not gonna cross that. So, so like I really appreciate the movie for like actually holding up in that aspect, because it's still just like a good time to watch, even though there's like some like kind of racist jokes in
Yeah,
it.
that is one thing that I was like worried about going back into this movie, because obviously it goes through like times of like racism in America and segregation, and so I was afraid that like there was a bunch of bad shit that I like forgot about. But like watching it again, it's like, oh, they didn't really feel the need to like try to go all out with these things. And I think because and the record executives are Hasidic Jews, and because they say like,
Mhm.
oh, Jews,
Mhm.
like, oh, Jews run the entertainment industry, um which, but then I don't know, because I was afraid they were gonna like make more jokes about that I forgot about, that'd be like anti-Semitic, but they just say like, oh, Jews run entertainment, and
But also
that's
the
it.
thing is,
Yeah.
like, it's produced and like co-written by Judd Apatow, who's himself Jewish. So I think like he like if he's the guy making it, it's I don't think it's
Yeah.
good. Like it's supposed to be over the top. Like the whole movie is supposed to be like an exaggeration. By that point in the
Yeah,
movie, if you're not
Yeah.
realizing like it's an
what you're
exaggeration of
watching.
like every trope, like I
Well, yeah,
mean,
and
if
that's
it was
I
like
think
in
that's why he gets away with it. Yeah, it's because it's a trope, like what you're
Yeah,
saying.
like if it was just a normal movie and like they were like, here's the record executives and they're like three very Hasidic Jewish men, like I think then you're like, well, what are you trying to say here? Like, but
Yeah.
because it's Walk Hard, like in the context of the movie, I think it's hilarious.
Yeah, it,
Yeah,
it
and I
works,
love
and
that they're just. Oh, sorry,
sorry.
Alex.
No, no. You go, Carter.
I was just saying how they like to add on top of that, they literally just call them Mr. L'Chaim and Mr. Mazel Tov, and then later,
Right.
There's Mr. L'Chaim's son is just called Dreidel L'Chaim.
Yeah, you see him later, but he's a Mr. Lahan's boy, Dre Laham. But no, like the movie, like, because it's aware of like the satire that it's presenting. What it was a funny thing that I noticed is that when he gets the record deal and like he you know improvises Walk Hard, not improvises, but you know what I mean, uh, and then becomes a hit. When he's getting money and becoming famous, if you notice that when he buys the house, I think it's Mr. Mazeltov. Mr. Mazeltov is also the person selling them the house because
Yeah,
he's
he
the one
puts
that
the
slaps
sold.
the sold sign on. And like, okay, I guess Mr. Lahiam's also a real estate agent. So
Gotta get
I
all
just
the
thought that was a
markets.
really good detail that they used. Um, I'm trying to think what goes past that after like the montage.
Yeah, he gets famous, and then like Edith has even more kids, and she's still like, "Oh, you got to give up this dream. Like you're never gonna get anywhere." Yada yada yada, and then Dewey goes on the road, and after, um, like he notices like all these women are going after Elvis, and he's just like, oh man, if I wasn't married and didn't have a good head on my shoulders, I don't know what I would do. And then he sees Tim Meadows like smoking weed, and then he gets into drugs to start the whole
Whoa!
addiction.
First up, can we talk really quick about Jack White
Playing yeah.
as Elvis? In my besides Paul Rudd as John Lennon, I think probably one of the best cameos, one of the like the better like cameo performances is Jack. Like I know Jack White like acts, but like that was like really funny. Like he just played it so fucking well that I always am surprised every time I see him that it's like that's Jack White playing like a
Elvis.
really like goofy Elvis who's just drunk or high or whatever and just like constantly doing karate chops. So it was just every time I see it, I have to like really pay attention to think that's Jack White. So
And
that's perfect casting.
yeah,
I didn't even know he acted.
I've well, let's be honest. The only other thing I've seen him in was the Muppet Show, but whatever.
Hey, that's acting. That's acting.
Yeah, it's somewhat.
Also, Frankie Muniz as Buddy Holly.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, which is crazy because in that point in his career, he wasn't really doing much. So
Right.
the fact that Frankie Muniz was like just in that randomly, it was just like, what?
Like
What
it's
the
that whole
fuck?
thing where you see him and you're just like, what the fuck? It's Frankie Muniz. Oh yeah, I forgot about it.
And one of his lines.
Oh no,
I
go
was
ahead.
gonna say one of his lines is like exactly goes back to like just another overt line. He's like, "Yup, it's me, Buddy Holly." Like he has to
Thanks,
point
Buddy
out
Holly.
like, exactly who he is.
You'll be great, Dewey, or my name's not Buddy Holly.
Right? Yeah, that's the exact line. There you go.
I feel like it would have been a really good move on their part to try to get Rivers Cuomo to play Buddy
Yes!
Holly, but I don't know if he has that acting ability
Partner,
like Frankie
I had
does.
I had that exact thought last night when I rewatched the movie.
Dude, I'm doing the W with my hands right now.
Yes, I feel the
I
power.
haven't listened to anything past White Album, but yeah.
No, there's no
Man.
problem there. Don't worry. You're a true fan in my mind.
That would have been
Thanks.
that actually would have been really good. I feel like I don't know. We can go talk about if Rivers would have been a good actor, but
We'll have
Besides
our
me.
last half hour will be all about Weezer, and so
Okay.
yeah, all the Weezer fans will get their fix.
Yeah.
We know you're
Uh,
listening out there, Weezer fans.
In Weezerville.
Okay,
In Weezer.
So, oh yeah, Tony, what happens? What do
He
we
gets
leave on?
addicted to he starts smoking weed and automatically
Yeah.
becomes this like
right.
cheater and
But
has
wait,
an
sorry.
orgy.
Can we pause on that scene because that might be my favorite scene in the entire movie where he smokes weed for the first time.
Yeah.
Like that whole scene, like so when I first saw this movie, like many years later I would start smoking, but when I first saw this movie, I never, touched anything in my life, like no drugs or anything like that. So like I still found that scene one of the funniest scenes of all time. Like in my head, it was every question I had about it. And the way they answered it, I think it kind of opened my mind. Like Dewey is just asking Tim Meadows. He's like, "Oh, I'm not going to get addicted, right?" He's like, "It's not habit forming." Like every single question you have about the drug, like they just answer in the funniest way. I don't know. That scene stuck with me.
I know. He's just like, you don't want
You
no
think-
part of this. It's just like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I don't want to get a hangover. It doesn't give you one. It's just like, oh well, it's not gonna make me want to have sex. It makes sex even better. You don't want
Are
no
you
part of
saying-
this. I think
are you
I want to try that. All right, get in.
Are you saying Tim Meadows made you start smoking weed?
It sounds kind of expensive. It's the cheapest drug there is.
And then
Okay,
how
just
they
this
keep
once.
that going, where it's just like,
Yeah.
what are you
Just
guys
once.
doing in here? We're doing cocaine, Dewey.
Cocaine.
It
The way he
all your
turns all
bad
your
feelings
bad-
into good ones.
It's all your bad feelings into good feelings. It's a nightmare.
It's a nightmare.
All the drug encounters, like they're all fucking great. Like, we're taking pills, uppers and downers. It's your next logical step.
Yeah. It took a few times watching the movie to actually realize, like, when he's a little kid, when he first like starts playing guitar, when he runs into the two like blues guys, he's like, "What are y'all playing?" And they're like, "We're playing the blues." And he's like, "I think I'd like to try me some of that blues."
Oh
Like, it
yeah,
actually-
that's kind of like
Yeah. It's like, well, what would what would a young boy
I didn't
know
even
about
pick
the
that
blues?
up.
Yeah, like I said, like I
didn't
had
know
to
about
have
that
seen the
either.
movie like 10 times before I realized, oh, like that starts right here.
Yeah.
Dang, you just opened up my brain.
Yeah. Yeah. Damn, I got to watch that again now. Okay, so then what's her name? Darlene comes into the picture,
Ah, yes.
which is great.
Jen Fisher.
Jen Fisher. Yeah,
Pam Beasley.
she's so funny. The one part where it's like where they kiss and she's just like, and she slaps him. She's like, "I'm not that kind of girl." It's like, okay, but that doesn't mean that we could still be friends. Like, okay. And then they started getting closer, and she slaps him again. It's like, I can't. We're friends. Like, the way she delivers that line is so good.
So she does great. She does a great job because her character Darlene comes in to be Dewey's backup singer, and then this starts the whole like long affair thing, like in Walk the Line with Reese Witherspoon and Joaquin Phoenix. But it's just so funny because they try to be friends, and I guess one thing that we have yet to touch on is the music in this movie is really good.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
And then they sing like this is my least favorite song, Let's Duet.
Your least favorite?
That's my least favorite, just because I'm like, okay, I get it.
Because it's on the nose.
Because I'm like, I get it. Like, haha. Yeah, like, you're blowing me kisses. You can always
oh, that's a
come
great
in
line.
my back door.
Michael Andrews, Elgin, also goes by Elgin Park. He did the music. He's like a multi-talented musician that like made all the songs and shit, and he's a genius. Like, it's incredible, like how many like different style of genres like he was able to make in this movie. That just, and like sounds like different, like in different time periods too. Like it was, it's just, they're all great songs.
Yeah, and there's something like 30 songs in the movie, and they all sound like real songs.
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah.
It's so good, the amount of effort that they put into pulling off this movie. It's so good. It's so
and
good.
the fact that John C. Reilly, like, he could sing, like, that's no joke. Like, he's singing the entire movie. Like, he's great.
Yeah, I think he was like, he already knew how to like play guitar and sing like before the movie. So it just great cast. And John C. Reilly looks like a 50s.
Yeah.
I don't know, just
he's always somebody that like that I always forget like about his range, because he's appeared in like a lot of serious films as well. And like he's like a really, really good actor, but he's also, it's like one of those things where it's just like, you can't have like that many talents. Like that's not fair, you know?
That's not fair.
But like
you can't
he's like a good
you can't be
singer.
Stephen Brule and know how to play guitar.
Yeah,
Exactly.
seriously.
It's not
Seriously,
fair.
You're a hero. But yeah, and just moving it along a little bit after they're trying Darlene, the sexual tension between Darlene and Dewey, which it took me a while to figure out when they sing the Darling song. I'm like, like when I heard that, I'm talking about like the last time I saw it. It took me that long to be like, oh, he's singing about her because it's Darlene and then Darling. And I'm just like, oh, I'm a fucking idiot. Like, I don't know why I don't like, there's just so many things going on in this movie that like it's impossible to catch everything. It's really impossible.
True.
And I just wasn't paying attention to that. I was just like, oh, this sounds like a song that would be in this time period. I'm like, oh, this literally is the whole thing where it's like on stage he's saying like, I'm in love with you. But he's saying Darlene. Um,
Because when I first saw the movie, I always thought he was saying Darlene, and I'm like, "You're still married, Dewey. Like, she's gonna hear this song on the radio."
You're never gonna get away with this, Dewey. Uh, but yes, then he decides to cheat the system and marry Darlene so that he can bone her. And then
Edith
somehow
comes in.
Edith shows up just randomly out of the blue and catches her. And he literally says one of his lines is just like he goes to Darlene and says like, "Oh, but we were just such good friends, and and you told me about that dream where you were licking my balls, and I kind of saw that as a sign." And he turns to Edith and says, "I forgot." You forgot you were married. um, so I just again thought there was like, "Oh, Edith, don't go," and then he goes, "Okay, well now that she's gone," like immediately just turns it off.
Yeah, and then
Oh.
Both Edith and Darlene like leave Dewey, and so that starts his like spiral of depression. One of my favorite jokes was just like, does Dewey like one of his bandmates on the tour bus is like, does Dewey seem
Yeah.
different to you? And then we see him crying, and this guy's, that was old Dewey. This is middle Dewey.
Middle Dewey.
This is middle, dude. But it's like the way he says it. Well, hey, to bring it back though, there's like one of the really one of my favorite lines, which is the when he's trying to tell Edith, it's just like, "Oh, so you're saying you've never done anything wrong?" It's like, "What are you talking about?" Or I can't remember what she says. He's like, "Oh, like that time that you drank up all the milk, and when I woke up the next morning and I had no milk for my cereal." He's just like, "Dude, you cheated on me." He's like, "Okay, I'm a cheater, but you could just drink up all the milk." That's fine. That's fine.
And,
It's nonstop with that. There's so many quotes. I could keep
and then
going with it.
he gets arrested, goes to rehab, gets clean, and Darlene comes back, and then it's the 60s, and
The '60s.
oh yeah, they're in India hanging out with the Beatles.
Well, I think we did
Did
we
we
skip
skip over
something?
something?
Yeah, I think we skipped something.
No, so he's in rehab. I feel like it's not a long part of the movie, but to me that part's kind of funny because there's a scene where he's like having withdrawals, I guess, and he's like in the bed, and like these doctors and nurses come in, and he's like, "I'm so cold," and they're like, "He needs more blankets."
Oh
And
yeah,
then
yeah.
and then it cuts back to him again. He's like, I'm so warm." It's like he needs less blankets. Then he's like, "I'm so warm and cold." And then he's like, he needs more blankets and he needs less blankets. Like it's the most dramatic part
he's
of the whole
he's
thing.
just he's like,
Yeah.
"I'm afraid you're right." What I actually posted this on my Facebook just because I was looking through the quotes on IMDb, and I just love that this is just a quote in general, but like when all of his family is standing above him and people are like, like either singing to him or saying some other stuff. His dad is standing above him. He's like, "Dewey, I don't know if you can hear me in there, but the wrong kid died." Every time he just came here to stand above him. He's like, "I don't know if you're hearing me, but fuck you."
Oh yeah, well, and Dewey's mom dies too earlier in the movie because
Oh
she was
shit!
listening to Walk Hard and she falls out the window and then the radio hits her in the
Just wanted to. Yeah, it's
so
so
he's got
that's
extra anger.
there's hold on, sorry, I lost my place. Um, fuck. I feel like we're jumping around. There's so much to this. We're in the '60s. Okay, that's right. We're in the no, because what I was saying that we probably skipped over was the whole aspect of like him trying to be like an activist through his music,
Oh yeah,
and
he
what's
basically
actually kind
becomes
of
Bob Dylan.
Oh
yeah,
yeah, that was before the Beatles scene.
yeah, that he does like the Little Man song. He does like the fake Bob Dylan song. And what's actually kind of funny is that like I was listening to the soundtrack like while I was driving, and he there's a deluxe version, there's like a regular version. On the deluxe version, there's like 10 extra songs where he
Mm.
plays like Bob Dylan, and it's all so great because it's ridiculous, and it's like a there's some that are a little like racy in it. But I mean, like, of course that's the point because like he's supposed to be like an activist, but like the joke is that like
He's
he's being an
terrible.
activist, but he's using all of these slurs for like he's like, oh, I stand for this person, but he's using the slur of that group of people, and I'm just like, oh, that's it. I get it, but it's kind of hard to hear when you hear all these slurs for different races and stuff like that. But if you ever have the chance, like I would listen to that deluxe album and just so many different like written songs that they made for to make it sound like Bob Dylan.
Yeah,
It's really great.
I bought that album on iTunes like a long time ago. Like what you're
Oh
saying,
yeah.
like it's just a great album. Like I find myself listening to it pretty often. Like it's just it's legit music. Like it sounds like, you know,
Yeah.
it's a comedy movie's soundtrack. Like is it going to be that good? And it's just
Yeah, and
great.
it's exactly like how
is.
you picture music that time period, you know.
I had
I also
downloaded
got
a few of the songs when I was in high school, and one of them was "Let Me Hold You, Little Man." So
Oh god. That would be so funny. Or
apparently
that
John
song.
C. Reilly and Bob Dylan also have the same birthday.
Oh,
what? And
It's
fun
kind of
fact, they're
crazy.
both still alive.
then it's perfect.
Yep,
Then it was meant to be.
it was meant to
Okay,
be.
then that and then after that whole like little montage thing is when he goes to India. And like seriously, one of the it there's a lot of good parts, but this is one of those parts where I'm just like, "Oh, everyone shut up. Paul Rudd, Jack Black, Jason Schwartzman, and Justin Long are playing the Beatles right now. So stop talking." Like every time that scene pops up, I'm like, "Nope, we're paying full attention because that scene is gold."
Yep.
Um,
I was watching
Paul
it when
Rudd,
I was watching
yeah,
it last night with my fiance. Like in the middle of the scene, she's like, "Wait a minute, is that Justin Long? Wait a minute, is that Paul Rudd?" Like,
yeah. It's like,
I don't
wait,
think.
what?
Yeah, it takes you a second to notice. Like, wow, like that's just amazing that they were able to do that. Like, I would watch a whole movie of them as the Beatles for sure.
Yeah, yeah. I don't. I think that was something that like I thought about with my friends. I was just like having like a spin-off movie, like parody movie of them as the Beatles would be maybe not even like like a
Incredible.
movie, just like a short or something. All I need is like 15
I need
minutes.
Yeah,
Really.
I just need
exactly.
like 15 minutes.
Yeah. Okay. But I remember specifically seeing that like that little part in like the trailer, so I knew like Paul Rudd or like the Beatles were being like parodied, but I didn't know that Jack Black played Paul McCartney. And so every time I see him too again, I forget that he's in it. And they have all these moments too where they acknowledge that like they're the Beatles and
Mhm.
like that they do
From
this. Oh,
Liverpool.
me, yeah, me, George Harrison, guitarist of the Beatles. I just really like to do this or something. Like
I have a
again,
song
that
about
whole
an octopus.
yeah. But that whole thing was just like, oh, do you remember when we played those shows? Those shows, Paul. It's like, yes, of course I remember them. I booked them. I'm the leader of the Beatles. And I feel like it's like that commentary is just like, oh yeah, Paul is the leader of the Beatles. That's like a known fact that he is, and people don't think about that. So I just get like I get like a good kick out of that when the way he says it and every single time he says it.
Yeah, until they
And
get
then I
Dewey
forget
hooked
which
on
character says it, but one of
psychedelics.
them is like, "Wow, it really seems the Beatles are just kind of imploding now, huh?" Or like there seems to be a rift between the Beatles.
Oh yeah, there seems
Yeah.
to be a rift between the Beatles. And then you guys are almost as good as the monkeys. You're great.
I
Yeah.
know when
And then they just all stop. It's like, what the fuck did you just say?
I feel
Okay,
like
and
that
then
line was
they
improvised. It's just they're just so
yeah, I don't know.
good.
I mean, honestly, it probably could have been. I feel like a lot of stuff might have been improvised, but
Yeah, a
in
lot of
this
the
scene,
cast, yeah, is definitely improv heavy.
yeah, I know John is like really good at it, so I would assume most people are. But there's actually something that is in this scene, just before they drop acid, and again, it's one of those things where it's just like, Kazdan. Am I saying his name right? The director,
Jake Hasden, I think
Yeah,
so.
Jake
Kazdan.
Kasdan,
Oh,
yeah.
Jake Kazdan. Okay, I just pretty sure his last name right. He has an incredible eye for detail for jokes that are like in there, but like not necessarily like it's one of those things like when you see it, it's like a little gift for you. It's just like, oh, you can tell that he put that in there because it made him laugh. And if you don't see it, then you don't see it. There's a couple of them. One of them is which to backtrack a little bit, it was when Dewey is trying to get back together with Edith, he like raises his hand up, and if you notice, he's wearing two wedding rings because he's double married. And so that was one thing I was like,
didn't realize that. No.
yeah, I was like,
Oh my
I didn't
God.
fucking notice
Never
that he's
noticed
wearing two
that.
wedding rings. The other thing was in that scene where Dewey's talking to Darlene. Darlene's wearing the oh god, I already forgot what it's called. I wrote it down. Shit. I'm so sorry. I forgot what it's called. The in Indian culture, you wear it on your forehead. It's like a bit. mm, Sorry, let me look this up real quick.
I know exactly what you're
You should
talking
have
about,
this
but I don't
ready.
know
Yeah,
the name.
I'm trying to figure out the name. Sorry, bindi. Oh my god, I'm such a fucking idiot. It's a bindi. However, the thing about Darlene is that she's a Christian girl, so her bindi is in the shape of a cross. And I don't know if you've noticed that, but it's tiny, 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 but it's in the shape of a cross. I'm like, you fucking, are you fucking serious? That's such a small detail that no one would. I mean, I'm sure people notice it, but it's just
Yeah, I
again
definitely
also
never noticed that. Wow,
also
that's news to
understanding her
me.
character. Yeah, I again I didn't notice that until I watched it the other day, and I was like, oh my god,
That's
like the director
brilliant.
has such a tiny like eye for detail, and
Mhm.
I just get a kick out of it every single time I see it.
It's kind of a shame that this movie flopped. Like they put like so much work into it, and I guess I'm learning tonight that even more work than I ever realized, and like it did not make money, and it seems
No, it didn't.
like I'm so glad you guys have seen it, and like like you've seen it so many times. It's like not the kind of movie you just see once, but like there's plenty of people I know that have never seen or even heard of this movie. It's a shame.
Yeah, yeah, that is a
Yeah, it
shame because
doesn't.
it.
No one talks about it. I don't like. I haven't heard anybody talk about this. Like bring it up or anything, except for you, Alex, obviously. But
Right.
no, nobody talks about it. I don't see it on any like essential comedy list. But fucking Step Brothers is on every single one.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
which is kind of weird because like that was the one thing I was thinking about was we or sorry as like comedy enthusiasts, like a lot of comedy enthusiasts, like they talk about like a lot of Christopher Guest movies, or they talk about all these other things, and it's just like, and no one brings this one up, and I don't understand because I
Hmm.
feel like it's part of the same genre, or it's part of the family. Like you have to watch this movie if you're a comedy enthusiast, and I just
Yeah,
or just
I
it's just
100%
comedy
agree with
lover,
that.
like.
Hmm.
Yeah, so it baffles me that, yeah, same thing. I only have like close friends that have seen this movie that I can share like a quote with or something, and I could say it and like they'll understand because like I'll just quote it randomly. I'm like, oh, you probably haven't seen this movie, so
Yeah,
um
Yeah, no.
I find myself saying the either the wrong kid died just because my friends get it and it just kind of works as like a random thing to say sometimes, and then I always
mhm.
say ain't nothing horrible gonna happen today. Like
Yeah.
it works. And when you say it with people that have seen the movie, like I try to use it in situations where it actually works. You know what I mean? Like, no,
Yeah.
don't jinx us. Don't say that.
Yeah. No,
Ain't nothing
I've
bad gonna happen.
I've said that before, and then the other one was I don't know why. It's just certain things like I'm sure like the quotes for this movie just kind of pop in your head sometimes. One of them that pops in my head, which is a bit later on in the film, is "fuck cats."
Yes.
Just the way that he says it, and it's after Dewey's trying to um, create his masterpiece, which has like thousands of goats, thousands of like native singer or like tribal singers and like didgeridoos and all that stuff,
Didgeridoos.
an army of
Didgeridoo.
didgeridoos. And so that's it causes the rift between like the band and him. But it's that whole thing where it's just like, and those Siamese glass cats that you give us for Christmas every year. I'm sick of them. I don't want them anymore. He's like, but the Siamese cat is a sign for nobility in ancient Egypt. Fuck nobility. Fuck ancient Egypt. And then just fuck cats. And so every time I think about that, I just say it the same way. Just fuck
It's so
cats.
funny. And you never once paid for drugs. Not once.
That is the way. I do notice that that's always like the quote that people like jump to. Like if you talk with like somebody, sometimes they'll just say like they'll say that line. I'm like, there's a lot of lines in this movie that's equally as funny, if not funnier.
I just think this is
So
one of those movies that has like too many lines to count. You might as well just like recite the whole thing because
Yep.
every like we were all saying, every line is just a winner. Like it you can't
mhm.
like I think about like this movie is so memorable. I think like sometimes just like little lines will come into my head, like when he first records "Walk Hard" and it's a hit, and it's like, and the hottest song in America recorded 35 minutes ago is "Walk Hard,"
Yeah, just 35 minutes ago.
played by the great Jack McBrayer.
Yeah,
Yep.
this movie, like, only Judd Apatow can fucking get a cast like this. Like, it's wild how many perfect celebrity like small parts or like cameos there are. Uh,
A decent amount of the Office actors are in the movie.
yeah, yeah, like
Mm-hmm.
Craig Robinson,
Jen
uh,
Fisher.
Jenna
yeah,
Fisher,
Jenna Fisher. There's some
Ed
other people in there.
Helms. Ed Helms is
Oh yeah,
towards
Ed
the.
Helms.
Oh, yeah. Oh boy, that rock and roll.
Oh, that rock and roll. Or just this. It's a stupid line, but just it's the way he says it. He's just like, "Hey guys, Elvis wants to go home early. He's hungry."
And Ed
I
Helms
think it's just the
delivers
way he
that
says it.
perfectly. Like he's that
Yeah,
character all the time.
and I don't know if it's like they were casted. Like part of me thinks like, oh, it was whoever was casting. Like if it was, I'm sure Judd was part of it, and like obviously, Kasdan was. But like, are they? Are they like purposefully like, picking like, yeah, Ed Helms is gonna play this guy, this really small part, or are they just kind of like, yeah, sure, take whatever role, I'm sure you'll do fine, like because that's kind of like what we do sometimes when we play something, we're like, yeah, sure, Carter, you can play that, like, or yeah, Dane, Zach, you can play that, whatever, and I wonder if it's like that same way, where it's just like, hey, you want a part? Yeah, we have this one, like cool, or are they like purposefully picking like these meticulous like meticulously these actors for these specific
Yeah,
parts because
that's a great thought because I mean, as like we were talking about before, like the way this movie was crafted was like so detailed and masterful that it seems like that could be the case that they're like, let's write this small role and give it to Ed Helms, or let's give this to Tim Meadows or whatever. Or, you know, maybe like they were just so good at no matter how they wrote it, like they could cast, like they could just, you know, that's where the details of the casting come in, I guess, where they could be like, you
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
know, both scenarios you were saying, like, okay, let's cast this person and no matter what line we feed them they're going to kill it. Like either
yeah,
way I think they know what they're doing. Like they're just, it just goes to show again how like fucking great this movie is. And I don't know.
yeah, and how just so much fun and how much love was like poured into it as well, like these people like really cared about this movie, like it wasn't, it's like they made it because they really, I think I remember reading something like that. It was on like a list of like the best screenplays that haven't been made like
Oh
before
yeah, it was on
it
the
came out.
2006 blacklist.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. And so it was like people like loved the script, and so like they finally started making it, and of course, you know, when something's a masterpiece, no one pays attention. Uh but I just, it feels like they made this because they wanted to make it and they wanted to like have a good time. It just feels like everyone's having a good time. And that's why it's like the
Mm-hmm.
cast is just
Mhm.
so perfect, and I feel like
Yeah.
everyone was just on board because it's a great project. So
It's just they got so many, and then because at the end of the movie, like Dewey's an old man and he's gonna be awarded the Lifetime Achievement Award, and so they cut to that ceremony, and then we go back to like the beginning of the movie, and this the celebrities that they got, my one of my favorites is Eddie Vedder introduces Dewey Cox, and I gotta
Talk
look.
about
I
you talk about
gotta
the
look.
quote that he says, the
I'm
long
gonna
quote.
look. I'm gonna look for this line.
Oh, I
But
wrote it
then
down. I wrote it down. You want me to say it?
please say it. Please say it.
It's if Elvis and Buddy Holly are the Cain and Abel of rock and roll. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. If Elvis and Buddy Holly are the Cain and Abel of rock and roll, and Bruce Springsteen is Zachariah, Iggy Pop is Methuselah, and of course Neil Young is the wise prophet Ezekiel. What does that make Dewey Cox? It's like he goes on this whole tangent and like kills it. Like he really like sells that line. I'm just like he sounds like he's like making like a really good like deep thought right here.
It sounds.
And they had Ghostface Killa for when they're singing "Walk Hard," and then he just has his little like breakdown. I walk hard. I'm a real hard walker, and I was just like, oh shit, I forgot Ghostface Killa's in this movie. They got everybody. They got their guns, and that just it makes it so much like that it flopped. It makes it so much sadder.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Hold on, I'm gonna
it's
look
hard.
up.
I mean,
I'm looking up the numbers right now. It cost $35 million to make, and they only made $20.6 million.
oh fuck.
That is
That
insane.
sucks. Yeah, that's like really hard. It's I always feel like the movies that like you really like love and like care about never get like the appreciation that it deserves.
Yeah. I mean, there was an article I was reading about, about like behind the scenes of Walk Hard, and that fact that you just said, like, it cost 35 million, they only made 20.6. Like, I think it was either Judd Apatow or I think it was the director, Jay Kasdan. He said it felt like we gave the world a beautiful gift and they didn't unwrap it.
I believe that. Yeah.
That just hurts.
But
Yeah.
like, yeah, it does. But what is kind of like nice, at least that comes out of it, and obviously, like, it sucks because, the people who made this film won't be able to like make something like that. I mean, maybe they will, but most likely won't be able to make something like this again. At least, like, it's kind of it's one of those movies that like when you find somebody that loves this movie the same way you do, it's like an instant connection.
Mhm.
It's that obviously you called it a cult classic, and it is like it has this diehard fandom that like is kind of hard to come by with like recent comedies, and so it's just one of those like little gems that when you find it, like you're lucky, but not everybody.
Are
not
we
everybody
Not
finds this.
everybody knows.
Are we the
Yeah.
cult of Cox?
Oh,
Yeah.
I like that. We're cockheads. I don't know.
We're the cult of Cox, not to be confused with the cock cult, which worships roosters.
Right, exactly.
Very, very clear difference.
Yes,
Very
yes.
clear
Don't
difference.
make sure you forward all your emails to
Yeah,
this address.
well, dude.
I mean, there's a lot we could still talk about. Like we
Well,
try
we
to
could talk
cover
about this
every
movie
single
all
thing.
day.
Yeah, but I think we're over an hour right now. So
Yeah, we are.
Tony, is there anything else about like the movie that you want to like touch on that we kind of bypassed, or just like any kind of like last remarks or anything like that?
I mean, I felt like everything we talked about was like perfect. I mean, I'm sure there's parts of the movie we have like, honestly, I feel like the weakest part of the movie, even though I love this movie, is towards the end. Like I think when it hits the 70s, it kind of slows down for me. Like the laughs per minute,
Yeah.
like it gets a little more serious. It goes back to what you were saying before. Like, am I supposed to laugh? Like at first you feel that way, but when you get towards the middle, it does get a little serious. Like there's no way to cut it. Like his life is in shambles. And if they don't show it in some dark way, like he has the interview with is Jane Lynch the actress's name? She's from Glee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And before he goes for the interview, his manager at the time, he's like, just remind everyone that you're clean now and you're no longer mainlining PCP or mainlining acid rather.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
every time she just brings up everything she shouldn't bring up in the interview, and he tries to sneak those things in, but he's so pissed off. Like, that's a great scene, but in like a movie of great scenes, you could kind of forget that whole scene.
I totally agree with you. Like, it's one of those scenes that I don't think about until it comes to until like I see that he has the TV show. And I'm like, oh yeah, he gets a TV show in the middle of it. Yeah, there's a lot of like middle to the end where it's just like they need to get him to a certain point,
Mhm.
and like they're trying to do that as fast as he can or as fast as they can. Um,
Right, like you get to meet his
yeah,
kids after that. Like one of his, kids just comes through with a baseball glove and a ball, and he's like, "Play catch with me. I'm your son. I'm Dewdrop." And then he
Dewdrop.
finds out he has all these kids that he never knew about, and you just get to see him kind of grow old while he's playing catch with them. It's like
Yeah.
a part of the movie where like we could talk about how funny and raunchy and serious it is, but like it like you feel like you get the feels when you
Yeah.
see that part of the movie, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was what I actually dug about it because like again, for like it's a really good comedy, but it's still made by like really like well-trained people that know how to make like a serious movie. Like the cinematographer, I can't remember her name. I think it's like Uta or something like that. She's like directed a lot of TV, but she's also like filmed for like she's done The Wire, she's done like all like tons of
Nice.
movies. She's like Westworld and all that stuff. So she does like really good like dramatic stuff, and I think like they picked the right person to do that because they're gonna think about shots that look like beautiful and serious, so that when you want moments like a sincere moment, you're gonna get it because you have all these people that are trained that way. Um, so
Especially
like
John C.
specific,
Reilly. He's just like we
yeah,
said before, he's just great. In a perfect world, maybe he gets, even if you don't think awards matter or not, like maybe he gets the Academy Award for this role. Like in the perfect world, like he
yeah,
he did so many things in this movie that I don't think I've ever seen another actor do in other movies. Like maybe it's similar, but how could you be so funny and good singing and dramatic and
yeah,
make me care about such a in a weird way? His character is a piece of shit, but you still like him and can sympathize with him.
You're rooting for him,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
So
because he's just
yeah,
a troubled man.
Right.
that's also just good writing too. It's like
Yep.
it's everything. It's all the whole collaborative thing. But I think like also when we get to like the very very end with like the beautiful ride song, which is I always forget how much I love that song. Um, but like the
Yeah, it's great.
montage that they attach to it, which it's like it's really funny because they attach all these moments that like didn't happen, but
Mhm.
like in the montage they did. Like how many times like did somebody pull out a gun to Dewey
Yes.
or something like that? There's so many gunfights that apparently happened that didn't.
Yeah, Chris Parnell
He
gets
didn't.
shot to death basically, and then they just cut to him like gleefully playing the bass. It's like, okay, I guess he's fine.
Yeah, and then but then like there's this one at the end that I always this one's more of like a testament to like the editing because this is just like they got the shot for like a specific thing, but when he's holding that last note on ride and like it like they intercut to like the camera shot of him in the 60s like on his back, it was nice because you really
Yes.
got the sentiment of it. It was like Johnny Cash is hurt like when you watch that music video and it has
Yeah.
all these old clips and you're just like, oh man, this guy's been through shit, and you
Yeah,
get that same feeling. You're like, this guy's been through shit.
Yeah.
It
Even though
was
you've only
that
been
kind of
sitting
moved
there
me.
for an hour and a half, and as Carter said
Yeah,
before, he's telling that story in the span of 2 minutes, apparently.
yeah, yeah. 1 minute
it's all in his
actually because
head.
it's 2 minutes, and then when he comes to, it's 1 minute, so it was only a minute, but it was really good, and you can tell it's made by like professionals that really really cared about it, and I see it every single time. So I yeah, that's where I'm leaving off on
Yeah.
that.
How would you
Well,
how would you rate this movie, Tony?
yeah.
Oh, I mean,
of
for me,
10?
this is an easy 10 out of 10. Like, like I said before, the only thing there's, towards the end, it might slow down a little, but I feel like that's just a natural slowing down of the movie. And like the movie has so many like jokes per minute that even when it doesn't have a joke for 1 minute, it starts to feel like it's slowing down. I don't think that's a bad thing, and it doesn't ruin the movie for me. It doesn't affect how I, rate it. 10 out of 10 for sure.
Nice.
Word. What about you,
What
Alex?
about you, No, well, I was gonna say, what are you about you, Carter?
Oh. Okay. I'm gonna have to go with 8, probably 8 out of 10. 8
An
cocks
8?
out of 10.
8 cocks out of 10. I
Yeah.
will.
Ha 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 ha.
I will do. It's gonna be a deep cut reference for anybody. I'm gonna split the difference. Do a solid 9 bracelets out of
Ooh.
10.
Mm.
So that's where I'm going with that. Just because like I'm very strict when it comes to making a movie 10 out of 10. It's like a 10 out of 10 movies, like it's like perfect in my eyes, and it's like because it has those like little lulls and stuff like that, and because it's like it's I can't say that it's like because it's a comedy. Oh, I'm gonna rate it lower, but it's just like it's it's just all it's doing is parodying. I'm like
Mhm.
I might have to give that a little like it didn't change me. You know what I'm saying? It
Fair enough.
Yeah,
made
it
me
didn't
laugh.
change
Like
me.
like if there's a movie that I'm like that affected me in the core, that's a 10 out of 10.
Now I feel
You
like I
have
have to
any?
change my score to a 9. You kind of convinced me that it
No,
should be a
no,
9.
please. I don't want you to do that. I don't want you to change it just because I said that. That's just me personally. Like only very few movies make a 10 like each year I watch it, so or each year's recap I made. So, that's just me. But oh shit, we went over an hour again.
Yeah, we did.
Mm,
Well, that was
That's what
bound to happen.
happens. That's what
Well,
happens
seriously,
when time flies. You're having fun.
yeah, there you go, as the kids say.
the kids do
Hmm.
say that. You're right. I've heard them say that before. Uh, well, Tony, thank you so much again. Like, I would love to have you on again. Just to again, just discuss movies or just discuss about anything. Like, seriously, it was like a pleasure having you here.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. I mean, I had a lot of fun doing this, and you even said during the podcast, like when you find someone that likes this movie, like we instantly connected. Whether or not it's because of this movie, I feel like I know you guys pretty well right now. Like we're on the
Hell yeah.
same wavelength, so I appreciate you inviting me to do this at all. It's a lot of
Hell,
fun.
Of
hell
course.
yeah.
Do you have
Yeah.
anything you want to plug? Any social media? Anything going on in your life?
Right now I'm not really working on too much besides something just for the daycare that I work at. I don't think it's something that if you have kids, you might want to show them this channel. It's the Treehouse's channel on YouTube. It just has a lot of like early childhood educators reading books, and there's projects that
Oh, cool.
families like are submitting. Yeah.
I have a lot of like nieces and nephews, so they might recommend that to them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just doing the editing for them right now. Like I'm not really an editor, but this is kind of teaching me how to do it, and I'm learning a lot.
Yeah.
So it's fun. In terms of
awesome.
in terms of like sketch comedy, might be working on something to put out in a week or two.
What?
Yeah,
Ooh.
something
Well, by the
small.
time this episode releases, it'll be out.
Oh, well, yeah, I'm talking about the past right now. Forget I confused the future with the past. Yeah, it'll be out.
Awesome.
Sweet. Awesome.
Sorry.
Cool.
Awesome. Well, Carter, do you want to plug?
Yeah, just in, usual shit in pursuit of nothing. You already know where to find all that. I'm Carter WBT on Instagram. I don't know if it's public or private whenever this episode comes out. So either follow me or like don't get your hopes up. I say that every episode.
Yeah, and you can follow me at Alex Pacillas on all the socials. I mean, you can follow me if you want. I don't really care. Do what you want.
And follow Nacho Comedy too. That's the YouTube channel that
Yeah.
Tony failed to
Yes.
mention.
Yeah, sorry. Yes,
Oh, yeah,
Nacho
yes.
Comedy. Instagram is Nacho Comedy Official. YouTube is Nacho Comedy. hopefully, you think it's funny.
That's our attitude as well.
Well, you guys are funny, so don't worry about that.
Oh,
Well, so are you. So yeah.
Oh.
Just all this kiss ass is making me tired, and sweaty.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Oh wait, I'm taking your job, Carter. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Yeah, thank you again,
please.
Tony, for being here, and thank you all of you listeners out there, for catching up with us every week on new movies. Tune in next week where we'll be talking about another movie that is not this one, but it's a different one. If you can guess, if you know what, little sweepstakes. If you can guess what next week's movie is, I will personally give you $1 million, guaranteed.
Oh, Carter. Okay, bye.
Bye.
All right.
Is it Infinity War? I heard in the first episode.